we start off with our subtalar joint, the issues you've got is you've got to stop the other joints either side of it from moving. So you've got to isolate it effectively. Right, so on one side we've got the ankle joint, and on the other side of it we've got the mid-tarsal joint, yeah? So the way we hold the foot is quite important from that point of view. So if you want to stop the ankle joint from having any influence, what you need to do is to dorsiflex it so that the wide part of the talus is, if you like, jammed into the ankle mortise, right? So one of the things you've got to do is to dorsiflex the foot to resistance. Yeah, you've got warm feet on you. Yeah, my hands might be cold. All right. Now, so that's the first thing. So by pressing up on the fourth and fifth, we're pushing the talus into the ankle mortise. All right. Now the other thing that it does is that by pushing up on the fourth and fifth, we can jam the fourth and fifth metatarsals against the cuboid and push the cuboid against the calcaneus. Right. So what we're trying to do is to create a bony bar on the outside of the foot. Yeah. So pushing up there will jam that. It'll jam that. Right. And that then will hold the mid-tarsal joint, right? Okay. So by this dorsiflexion action, I'm actually doing exactly what I need to do with the joints which are on either side of the subtalar joint, right? And then you can put your hand on the leg and just relax your foot, and then we can just swing the foot through its range of movement like that, right? So that's subtalar joint movement.
Is that abduction and abduction, or
Well,
eversion and inversion?
the main thing you can see is you can see inversion, you can see eversion, you can see that the foot's moving in direction of abduction and adduction. The other thing you can see is that as you supinate, there's some plantar flexion, small amount, and as you pronate, there's some dorsiflexion. So you can see the major components. The major components are inversion, eversion, abduction, adduction, with a small amount of dorsiflexion, plantarflexion. Right? So we can swing it through its range of movement. You're looking at, in an average foot, what, 30 degrees total range of movement? Yeah? And you're basically feeling to see if that movement is smooth, and that it's got a definite stop or end point at either side. Yeah. So it moves through a nice range, then it stops at the end of its range. And there's no creaking or crepitus, there's no resistance to moving, there's no grating of bone surfaces together. Okay. And then we can look at neutral position by finding the position where the talonavicular joint is congruent. And you need to sort of pinch the joint line along that joint line there. So get your fingers into the hollows either side of the talus there. And then you can see when you dorsiflex and you're in neutral, it's quite a stable sort of position there. It doesn't easily move out of that position once you've got it really found. Right. So that would be neutral position. And then we can look to see how much supination we've got from neutral. So there's neutral, there's the, just relax, yeah, that's supination. Yeah, and back to our neutral position, there, and then pronation, right? So this doesn't fit with the root 2/3, 1/3 range of motion. It's got a small amount of supination, right, back to neutral, and then it's got a lot of pronation, yeah. So I would say, what, a quarter of its movement is supination, and the rest of its movement is pronation, right. So it certainly doesn't have the proportions of movement that Root would say is the ideal. Right. Okay. So you wouldn't really expect this foot to be actually supinating a lot when you're actually walking. You'd expect it to be have more pronation than supination, and perhaps to function in that sort of way. Okay. And then don't forget your starting point for all the other joints is to have the subtalar joint in neutral position, because it influences how much movement you can get of the other joints. Alright. So if we look further forward at our mid-tarsal joint, talonavicular calcaneal cuboid, this is probably the one that people find most difficult to test effectively. And the problem is that you've got the ankle joint and the subtalar joint, and somehow you've got to stop those two joints from moving by grasping across them like that, and then you've got to just move the mid-tarsal joint about its two axes of movement. Right. So what you've got to do is to get the heel of the foot in the palm of your hand, and I admit it's difficult if you've got a small hand and a big foot. Right. But just get the heel of the back of your hand here, yeah, close to your wrist, and what you're trying to do is grasp up to grasp the malleoli, yeah, you can do that, right. So what we're doing is we're actually grasping across the subtalar joint and across the ankle, right, to hold them in a position, right. So when you do it, what we do is we do with the same as we did before. We're trying to dorsiflex the ankle joint to resistance, right? So that'll stop the ankle joint from moving. And we're gripping up across the subtalar joint with our thumb and fingers on the malleoli, with the heel in the palm of your hand. Right? And then what you can do is, by twisting your hand, you can adjust the foot to its starting position and get it into neutral. Right. And then pull them up to sit slightly medial to the foot to do this. And then we're going to hold the foot across the metatarsal shaft, right across the middle here, with a finger and a thumb, top and bottom. Right. And then what we're going to do is if you think about the oblique axis, you're going to get dorsiflexion and abduction, plantarflexion, abduction. So we need to be pushing at an angle like that, laterally. Right, push and pull. Right, so there's the foot, ankle joint dorsiflexed to resistance, fingers on either side, holding the subtalar joint positioned in neutral. Yeah, and then we can try and move this. Right. There's a clunk there somewhere. Can you feel that? Somewhere around here. Yeah. There's something sort of clunking and grating in there, isn't there? Yeah. So you can see that, can't you? Dorsiflexion with abduction, plantarflexion with abduction. Right, so there's a click somewhere in there. I don't know what's going on there.
Where would that be, Ripley? That joint or
It's somewhere in here.
maybe tendons?
Yeah. Okay. So it's just a push and a pull like that, or waggle. Yeah.
That's why you see the movement, and you see whether it's smooth movement.
Yeah, you're looking, that's towards the very mobile end of things.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you get them, they don't move at all, so you get a
Rigid.
fairly rigid one. And somewhere in between is a sort of average. Yeah. What you normally find is that with a very pronated foot, they develop hypermobility in the mid-tarsal joint. So this is the sort of thing you'd expect to find in a foot that pronates quite a lot. Yeah. High arch supinated foot, you tend to don't have much movement at all. Yeah. Okay, the other one we've got to do is the long axis, which is a bit like playing the bagpipes, pumping up the bag. Yeah. So starting from that position, you can invert and then you can move back to your start position. So it's inversion for about the long axis. And there is a danger here that the skin will move over the bones as you're doing it, and it's quite easy to think you've got more movement than you have. And that's probably the movement, whereas if I roll my fingers it looks as though I'm getting it. And look at my elbow, it looks as though there's a lot of movement, but in actual fact that's probably... Yeah?